No, I'm not interested." The words hung in the humid Lagos morning air like a slap. Every head at the busy marketplace turned toward Kemi's bread stall. The handsome man in the expensive watch stood frozen, his mouth slightly open. Women whispered behind their hands. Men stopped mid-stride. Even the Okada riders paused their morning arguments to stare. Kemi continued arranging her bread loaves as if she hadn't just rejected one of Nigeria's wealthiest men. Adedayo Martins cleared his throat, recovering from the shock. "I'm sorry?" "I said no, sir. Thank you for buying bread from me every morning, but I'm not interested in dinner." Kemi's voice was polite, but firm. She didn't even look up from her work. A small crowd had gathered now. This was better than morning television. "May I ask why?" Adedayo stepped closer to the wooden stall, genuinely confused. Women usually competed for his attention. Marriage proposals arrived at his office weekly. Yet this bread seller, wearing a faded wrapper and headscarf, had dismissed him like he was selling insurance. Kemi finally looked up, meeting his eyes directly. "Because I know men like you. You have money, so you think everything has a price. You see a girl like me and think she'll be impressed by your car and your watch." She pointed at his Patek Philippe. "I'm not for sale, sir, and I'm too busy building a life to be someone's weekend entertainment." The crowd murmured appreciation. Someone clapped. Adedayo felt heat rising to his face. He'd never been spoken to like this. Part of him wanted to walk away and never return. But another part, the part that had built his company from nothing, recognized something rare. This woman had fire. She had principles. She was real. "I apologize if I offended you," he said quietly. "That wasn't my intention." "Apology accepted. That'll be 200 naira for the bread." He paid, took his loaf, and walked back to his Range Rover where his driver waited. As they pulled away, Adedayo couldn't stop looking in the side mirror. Kemi had already returned to serving customers, laughing at something an old woman said. "Sir, are you all right?" his driver asked. "Take me back to the office, Emeka." But Adedayo's mind was already spinning. No woman had ever rejected him. More importantly, no one had challenged him to look beyond his wealth in years. Everyone wanted something from him. Everyone except her. That evening in his Ikoyi penthouse, Adedayo stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. His phone buzzed with messages from his assistant about tomorrow's meetings, but he couldn't focus. He kept replaying Kemi's words. "You think everything has a price?" Was that true? When had he last done something without the cushion of his wealth? When had anyone last seen him as just Adedayo, not Adedayo Martins, CEO of Martins Holdings? He picked up his phone and called his oldest friend, Chidi. "Guy, what's wrong? You sound different," Chidi said after Adedayo explained the morning's events. "A woman rejected me today." Chidi laughed so hard he started coughing. "Ah, finally. Do you know how long I've been waiting for this? What did she say?" "She said, I think everything has a price." The laughter stopped. "Adedayo, my brother, she's not wrong. When was the last time you did something without your money solving it?" The question stung because it was true. Adedayo ended the call and made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, Kemi arrived at her usual spot at 5:30, just as dawn began painting the Lagos sky pink and orange. She unloaded bread from the supplier's truck, arranged her stall, and prepared for another day of hard work. This was the life she knew. This was the life she'd built alone. Sister Kemi, good morning, oh." She turned to see her younger brother Tunda jogging toward her, his school bag bouncing on his back. At 17, he was already taller than her, with their late father's broad shoulders and serious eyes. "Tunde, you're early. No classes this morning?" "I wanted to help you set up first." He started arranging bread without being asked. This was why Kemi worked so hard. This boy was going to university. He was going to be somebody. She would make sure of it. "I heard about yesterday," Tunde said casually. "The whole market is talking about it." Kemi groaned. "Not you two." "Sister, they said you rejected a billionaire." "He's just a man, Tunde. Money doesn't change that." "But sister, think about it. School fees, house rent, your own shop instead of this stall." "Stop." Kemi's voice was sharp. "Is that what you want? For your sister to sell herself for school fees? Am I not paying your fees with my bread money? Am I not putting food on our table with honest work?" Tunde looked down, ashamed. "Sorry, sister." Kemi's expression softened. She touched his cheek. "Tunde, listen to me. Poverty is not a curse. It's a condition we're working to change. But we'll do it with our dignity intact. You understand?" He nodded, but his eyes held doubt. What 17-year-old wouldn't dream of an easier life? As Tunde left for school, Kemi's first customers began arriving. The morning rush was always busy. She served them with smiles, remembered their usual orders, asked about their families. This was her community. These people knew her story. They'd supported her when her mother died 3 years ago. They'd celebrated when she saved enough to buy her own bread stall instead of selling from a tray on her head. "Kemi, my daughter, good morning." She looked up to see Mama Ronke from the neighboring stall approaching. The older woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, Mama. I hear you're now rejecting billionaires. You think you're too good for us common people now?" Several other sellers had gathered, listening with interest. Kemi recognized the trap immediately. "Mama Ronka, I rejected a man, not a bank. Account. There's a difference." Mama Ronke's smile turned cold. "We'll see how long your pride lasts. Pride doesn't pay rent." As the older woman walked away, Kemi felt a chill despite the morning heat. Mama Ronka had never liked her. Competition was fierce in the market, and Kemi's stall had been attracting more customers lately. But there was something else in those words, a threat. She shook off the feeling and returned to work. She had bread to sell and a brother to feed. Other people's jealousy was their problem, not hers. What Kemi didn't know was that at that exact moment, Adedayo Martins was standing in front of his bathroom mirror with a razor in his hand, making a decision that would shock everyone who knew him. "Sir, are you sure about this?" his assistant Kenneth asked through the bathroom door. "I've never been more sure of anything." 10 minutes later, Adedayo emerged looking like a different person. He'd trimmed his beard to stubble, styled his hair simply, and put on clothes he'd bought that morning from Belogan Market. Plain jeans, a simple t-shirt, worn sneakers. No designer labels, no flashy accessories, just a regular man. "Kenneth, I need you to keep this between us. Tell everyone I'm traveling for business." "Sir, what exactly are you planning?" "I'm going to learn about real life again, and I'm going to prove to someone that I'm more than my bank account." Kenneth looked at his boss with concern. "Sir, is this about the bread seller?" "Her name is Kemi, and yes, it's about her, but it's also about me. I've been living in a bubble, Kenneth. I want to remember what it feels like to be just Adedayo, Not Adedayo Martins, the billionaire. How will you survive without your credit cards, your driver, your... That's the point. I'll figure it out, like everyone else does. 2 hours later, a man calling himself Dayo walked into a community bakery in Yaba. The owner, a tired-looking man named Brother Jide, looked him up and down suspiciously. "You want to work here? Why?" "I need a job, sir. I can work hard." "You have soft hands. You've never done hard labor before." Adedayo looked down at his manicured hands. Brother Jide was right. "I'm willing to learn, sir. Give me 1 week to prove myself." Something in the young man's eyes made Brother Jide pause. There was determination there, but also something else. Humility? Desperation? He couldn't quite place it. 1 week, no pay until you prove you can do the work. Be here at 4 a.m. tomorrow." "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." As Adedayo left the bakery, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Nervousness, excitement, the thrill of uncertainty. He had no idea what he was doing, but he knew it was important. The next morning at 4 a.m., Adedayo learned what real work meant. Brother Jide put him on dough preparation. Within an hour, his arms ached, his back screamed. Flour covered him from head to toe. The heat from the ovens made him feel like he was standing in hell. "Dayo, faster! We have orders to fill!" Brother Jide shouted. Adedayo pushed through the pain, kneading dough until his shoulders burned. Around him, other workers moved with practiced efficiency. A woman named Auntie Biola showed him how to shape the loaves properly. "You're doing well for your first day," she said kindly. "Most men quit by now." "I'm not going to quit." "Good. We need strong hands here." By 7 a.m., when the first batch of bread was loaded onto delivery trucks, Adedayo felt like he'd run a marathon. But he also felt alive in a way he hadn't for years. This was real accomplishment. This exhaustion was earned. "Dayo, take this tray to the market sellers. You know the route?" "No, sir, but I'll learn." Brother Jide handed him a heavy tray of fresh bread and a list of sellers. Adedayo balanced it on his head the way he'd seen people do, nearly dropping it twice before getting the hang of it. Then he set off into the morning chaos of Lagos, one name on his list circled in red ink: Kemi. When he arrived at her stall, she was serving a customer and didn't notice him at first. Adedayo took a moment to watch her. She moved with such efficiency, such grace. Her smile was genuine when she handed change to an old man. Her laugh rang out when a child told her a joke. "Excuse me, sister. Delivery from Brother Jide's bakery." Kemi turned and their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. "You're new," she finally said. "What's your name?" "Dayo." "Well, Dayo, set the bread down here. How much do I owe?" As he unloaded the bread, Adedayo tried to think of something to say, something that wouldn't give away his identity, something that would make her see him. "Sister Kemi, can I ask you something?" She raised an eyebrow. "You know my name?" "Everyone knows your name. You're popular here." A small smile crossed her face. "What do you want to ask?" "That man who came here last week, the rich one. Why did you really reject him?" Kemi's smile faded. "Why does everyone want to know? What's it to you?" "I'm just curious. Most people would have said yes." "Then most people don't know their worth." She counted out his payment carefully. "Money comes and goes, Dayo. But character, integrity, those are forever. That man didn't see me. He saw someone he could impress with his wealth. What if you were wrong about him?" Kemi laughed, but it was a sad sound. I've been wrong about many things in my life, but I've learned to trust my instincts about people. Men like him live in a different world. They don't understand struggle. They don't understand sacrifice. They definitely don't understand women like me. She handed him the money and turned back to her customers, dismissing him. But as Adedayo walked away, he felt more determined than ever. He would prove her wrong. Not as Adedayo the billionaire, but as Dayo the bakery worker. He would show her that he could understand struggle, that he was willing to sacrifice, that he did see her. Over the next 2 weeks, Dayo became a familiar face in the market. He delivered bread every morning, and each time he found reasons to linger at Kemi's stall. Small conversations that gradually grew longer. A joke here, a shared complaint about the heat there. Slowly, carefully, he began to learn about her life. She had raised her brother alone since their mother died. She saved every naira not spent on essentials. She dreamed of owning her own bakery someday. She loved old Nollywood movies and gospel music. She was afraid of failure, but more afraid of not trying. Kemi, for her part, found herself looking forward to Dayo's morning deliveries. There was something different about him. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He didn't treat her differently because she was a bread seller. When he laughed, it reached his eyes. And when he looked at her, she felt seen, in a way she hadn't felt in years. "Sister Kemi, who is that man?" Tunde asked one Saturday morning after watching Dayo leave. "Just a delivery guy from Brother Jaide's bakery." "He looks at you like you're the only person in the market." "Tunde, don't be silly. Go to your lessons." But after her brother left, Kemi caught herself smiling. Was it so obvious? Did others notice too? Across the market, Mama Ronke noticed everything. She watched Dayo linger at Kemi's stall. She saw them laugh together. She noted how Kemi's eyes followed him when he left. And she hated it. Mama Ronke's own stall had lost customers to Kemi's over the past year. The girl was younger, prettier, friendlier. Now she had some handsome man delivering bread to her personally. It wasn't fair. None of it was fair. "Sister Ronke, you're staring," her assistant whispered. "That girl thinks she's better than everyone else." "Which girl?" "Kemi. First she rejects a billionaire. Now she has another man chasing her. Who does she think she is?" "Maybe she's just lucky." "Luck has nothing to do with it. Pride comes before a fall. You watch. That girl needs to learn her place." That night, Mama Ronke made a phone call to her nephew, a man known for solving problems in ways that didn't involve police. By the time she hung up, she was smiling. Sometimes the tallest trees needed cutting down to size. The next morning started like any other. Kemi arrived early, set up her stall, and welcomed her first customers. Dayo came with the bread delivery, and they talked about the upcoming church harvest festival. He made her laugh by describing how he'd accidentally dropped an entire tray of bread that week. "You're clumsy for a delivery person," she teased. "I'm learning. It takes time to master a new skill." "How long have you been doing this?" A pause. Then, "Not long. This is actually a new start for me." "What were you doing before?" Another pause, longer this time. Kemi noticed he seemed to be choosing his words carefully. "I worked in business, corporate stuff, but I wasn't happy. I wanted to do something real, something that mattered." "Delivering bread matters?" "More than you'd think. I've learned more in these few weeks than I learned in years behind a desk." There was something in his voice that made Kemi study him more closely. His hands were softer than most workers' hands. His accent, now that she thought about it, was educated. The way he carried himself suggested someone used to respect. Dayo, who are you really? His eyes met hers, and she saw something flicker there. Fear? Hope? Before he could answer, a customer called for Kemi's attention. By the time she turned back, Dayo was already leaving with his empty trays. "Wait," she called, but he was gone. That night, Kemi couldn't sleep. Something about Dayo bothered her. Not in a bad way, but in a way that made her realize how little she actually knew about him. He appeared a few weeks ago and fit into the market like he'd always been there. But there were inconsistencies. The way he sometimes forgot to use pidgin, how he once mentioned a restaurant she knew was too expensive for a bakery worker. Small things that didn't quite add up. "Sister, are you awake?" Tunde's voice came from the doorway of their small room. "Yes? Can't sleep?" Her brother sat on the edge of her mat. "Sister, I've been thinking. Maybe you should give that rich man a chance." "Tunde, not this again." "Listen to me. I'm not saying marry him. I'm saying get to know him. What if he's actually a good person? What if his money could help us? We don't need his money, but we need help. Sister, I see how tired you are. I see you counting money at night, worried about rent. I want to finish school, but I also want you to rest, to be happy." Kemi touched her brother's face, her heart breaking a little. When had he grown so wise? "I am happy, Tunde. I'm happy because we have each other, because we're doing this honestly. That's worth more than any man's money." "Even if that man might actually care about you?" "What do you mean?" "That Dayo guy. He cares about you, sister. I can see it. Maybe you should think about why you're really pushing him away." After Tunde returned to his mat, Kemi lay in the darkness, thinking about his words. Was she pushing Dayo away? And if so, why? Because she was afraid of being hurt? Because she didn't trust men? Or because deep down, she was starting to feel something for him, and that terrified her? She had built her life on independence, on not needing anyone. Her father left when she was young. Her mother died despite Kemi's prayers. Men in the market had propositioned her, promised her the world, then disappeared when she wouldn't give them what they wanted. She had learned that the only person she could truly count on was herself. But Dayo was different, wasn't he? He didn't ask for anything. He showed up consistently. He treated her with respect. He made her laugh. And when he looked at her, she felt beautiful. For the first time in years. "God, if he's real, if he's genuine, show me," she whispered into the darkness. "I'm so tired of being alone." What Kemi didn't know was that across Lagos, in a small rented room in Yaba, Adedayo was praying too. "I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this is right, but I know she matters. Help me prove to her that I see her. Not her beauty, not what she can give me, but her. The real her." He lay on the thin mattress, so different from his king-sized bed in Ikoyi. His body ached from work. His hands were calloused. He'd lost weight. But he felt more alive than he had in a decade. Tomorrow he would see her again. Tomorrow he would find a way to show her who he really was. Not through wealth, but through actions, through character, through love. He just hoped it would be enough. The fire started at 2 a.m. Kemi woke to screaming and the smell of smoke. She grabbed Tunda and ran outside their small apartment to find the entire market illuminated by flames. Her heart dropped into her stomach, her stall. She ran toward the marketplace, Tunde trying to hold her back. By the time they arrived, her bread stall was fully engulfed. Other sellers formed a bucket chain, trying to save neighboring stalls, but hers was already lost. No, no, no! Kemi broke free from Tunda and tried to run toward the flames, but strong arms caught her. "Sister Kemi, it's too late." She collapsed to her knees, watching years of work burn. Every naira she'd saved for the stall, every dream she'd built, gone, all gone. "Who did this?" Tunde shouted at the crowd. Someone must have seen something. But everyone was silent. In the firelight, Kemi saw Mama Ronke standing at the edge of the crowd. Their eyes met, and the older woman smiled. Just barely. Just enough for Kemi to know. She did this. The realization hit Kemi harder than the loss of the stall. This was deliberate. Someone hated her enough to destroy everything she'd built. Because of jealousy, because of spite, because she'd committed the crime of working hard and succeeding. "Sister, we'll rebuild. We'll start again," Tunde said, his voice breaking. But Kemi couldn't speak. She couldn't breathe. She just knelt there, watching her dreams turn to ash, wondering if God was punishing her for some sin she didn't know she'd committed. Then she felt a hand on her shoulder. She looked up through tears to see Dayo standing there, his face streaked with soot. He must have heard the commotion and come running. "I'm so sorry," he said quietly. And then Kemi did something she hadn't done since her mother died. She broke down completely, sobbing into a man's shoulder, letting all the strength she'd carried for so long finally shatter. Dayo held her, whispering, "It's okay. Let it out. I've got you." Around them, the market whispered, some with sympathy, others with cruel satisfaction. But neither Kemi nor Dayo noticed. In that moment, the only thing that mattered was that she wasn't alone. The next morning, Kemi sat among the ashes of her stall, sorting through what little could be salvaged. Not much. Some melted plastic containers, twisted metal rods. Everything else was gone. "Sister, let's go home. There's nothing left here," Tunde said, his eyes red from crying. "I need to see it. I need to accept it's real." She heard footsteps and looked up to see Dayo approaching with 2 other men carrying wood and tools. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Rebuilding. What does it look like?" "Dayo, I can't pay you. I can't pay anyone. I have nothing left." He knelt beside her in the ashes. "Who said anything about payment? You helped me when I first started in the market. You were kind when others looked down on me for being new. Now it's my turn. But why? Why would you do this for me?" Dayo looked at her with such intensity that Kemi felt her breath catch. "Because I see you, Kemi. I see how hard you work. I see how much you've overcome. I see your heart. And I'm not going to let you fall. Not now. Not ever." Tears spilled down her cheeks again. "I don't understand you. You don't have to. Just let me help. Please." Over the next 3 days, something miraculous happened. Dayo recruited workers from Brother Jide's bakery. Other market sellers, feeling guilty about the fire, donated materials. Even some of Kemi's regular customers brought money. Slowly, impossibly, a new stall began to rise from the ashes. And through it all, Dayo worked harder than anyone. He was there before dawn and didn't leave until after dark. He carried wood, he hammered nails, he painted. His hands bled from splinters, but he never complained. Kemi watched him with growing confusion and something else, something warm in her chest that she was afraid to name. On the 3rd evening, after everyone else had left, Kemi found Dayo sitting on the ground, examining his blistered hands. "You're hurt," she said, sitting beside him. "It's nothing." Dayo, these aren't the hands of someone who's used to labor. Tell me the truth. Who are you?" He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw the internal war playing out in his eyes. Truth or lie? Trust or protection? "I'm just a man who cares about you," he finally said. "That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters right now." Kemi felt frustration rising. Everyone has secrets. Everyone is hiding something. How can I trust you when I don't even know who you really are? You can trust me because of what I do, not what I say. Watch my actions, Kemi. I'm showing you who I am every day. But what if you're showing me a lie? What if this is all some kind of game? Dayo stood up, pain flashing across his face, not from his hands, but from her words. If you really believe that, then I've already lost. I can't prove myself to someone who's determined not to trust me. He walked away into the darkening market, leaving Kemi alone, with her thoughts and her half-rebuilt stall. That night, Tunde found his sister sitting outside their apartment, staring at nothing. "You're going to push away every good thing that comes into your life," he said softly. "What if he's not good? What if he breaks my heart? What if he doesn't? Sister, I've watched you for years. You take care of everyone else. You work so hard. You sacrifice everything. When was the last time you let someone take care of you? I can't afford to be weak." Accepting help isn't weakness. It's trust. And maybe, just maybe, it's time you trusted someone besides yourself. Kemi looked at her brother, this wise young man she'd raised, and realized he was right. She had built walls so high that nothing could hurt her. But those same walls kept out everything good, too. The next morning, she arrived at the market to find Dayo already working on the stall. She walked up behind him quietly. "Dayo." He turned, wariness in his eyes. "Good morning. I'm sorry for what I said last night. You've been nothing but kind to me, and I accused you of playing games." His expression softened. "You have every right to be cautious." "No, I have every right to be grateful. Thank you for everything." They looked at each other, and something shifted between them. Some invisible wall crumbling, some door opening. "Come on," Dayo said with a smile. "Let's finish building your dream." They worked side by side that day, and for the first time, Kemi allowed herself to enjoy his presence without suspicion. They talked about everything and nothing. He told her about his childhood, growing up with strict parents who pushed him toward success. She told him about her mother, who used to sing while making bread. "She would have liked you," Kemi said, surprising herself. "Yeah?" "She always said a man's character is shown in how he treats people who can do nothing for him." Dayo went very still. "And what does that say about me?" "It says you're one of the good ones." As the sun set on the 5th day, the new stall was complete. It was better than the old one, stronger, more beautiful. A crowd had gathered to see the unveiling. "Sister Kemi, it's perfect," one of her regular customers exclaimed. Even Mama Ronke was there, though her expression was sour. She'd expected Kemi to give up and leave the market. Instead, the girl had come back stronger. Brother Jaidi brought free bread for a grand reopening. Someone brought a speaker and played music. It turned into an impromptu celebration. And through it all, Kemi and Dayo stood side by side, their hands occasionally brushing, electric each time. "I couldn't have done this without you," Kemi said as the crowd began to disperse. "Yes, you could have. You're the strongest person I know, but I'm glad I could help." "Dayo, She stopped, not knowing how to say what she felt. What is it? I've been alone for so long. I've been so afraid of needing anyone. But these past few days, having you here, I realized something. Being alone isn't the same as being strong. And maybe it's okay to let someone in. Dayo's eyes widened. His heart raced. This was it. The moment he'd been working toward. But there was something he needed to tell her first. Something that might ruin everything. Kemi, there's something you should know about me. Something important. Before he could continue, Tunde ran up, waving a piece of paper. Sister, you won't believe this. What is it? There's a charity event at the Echo Hotel this weekend. Big companies, important people, and they're inviting local business owners to attend. Someone submitted your name. Kemi looked at Dayo, who suddenly wouldn't meet her eyes. Did you do this? I thought it would be good for your business, a chance to make connections. But the Echo Hotel? That's for rich people. I don't have anything to wear to a place like that. You don't need fancy clothes. You just need to be yourself. Will you go? Please? I'll be there too. You'll be there? How? Why? Dayo took a deep breath. Because I need to show you something I should have shown you from the beginning. Will you trust me? One more time? Kemi looked at his earnest face, at his blistered hands, at the man who had literally rebuilt her dreams. How could she say no? Okay, I'll go. What she didn't see was the panic that crossed Dayo's face after she agreed. He had 3 days to prepare her for the truth. 3 days before she learned that Dayo and Adedayo were the same person. 3 days before everything he'd built with her either solidified or collapsed. That night, Adedayo sat in his Ikoyi penthouse for the first time in weeks. Kenneth had picked him up from the market, shocked by his boss's appearance. Sir, you've lost weight. You look exhausted. I feel more alive than I have in years. And the woman? Does she know yet? She will, soon. I'm going to tell her everything at the charity event. Kenneth looked worried. Sir, forgive me, but that sounds like a terrible idea. She'll feel deceived, humiliated in front of all those people. Which is why I need your help. I need everything to be perfect. I need her to understand why I did this before she hates me. And if she hates you anyway? Adedayo was quiet for a long moment. Then at least I'll know I tried, that I showed her the real me before she met the version everyone else sees. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Kemi worked her stall, excited and nervous about the upcoming event. Dayo came by each morning, but she noticed he seemed distracted, almost sad. Are you okay? She asked him on Friday. I'm fine, just nervous about tomorrow. Why would you be nervous? Because everything changes tomorrow, for both of us. She didn't understand what he meant, but something in his tone made her uneasy. Saturday arrived too quickly. Tunde had borrowed a simple dress for his sister from a church friend. Nothing fancy, but it was clean and modest. Kemi felt ridiculous putting it on. Sister, you look beautiful, Tunde said, his eyes shining with pride. I look like I'm going to a funeral. You look like a queen? A car arrived to pick them up at 6 p.m. Not Dayo, but a driver who introduced himself as Emeka. The drive to Victoria Island felt surreal. Kemi watched the city transform from her familiar streets to wealthy neighborhoods she'd only seen on television. Sister, I'm scared, Tunde whispered. Me too, brother. Me too. When they arrived at the Echo Hotel, Kemi's breath caught. The building seemed to touch the sky. Luxury cars lined the entrance. People in expensive clothes laughed and chatted. She felt completely out of place. "Maybe we should go home," she said. But Amika smiled kindly. "Miss Kemi, Mr. Dayo asked me to tell you something. He said, 'You belong here more than anyone else. Your worth isn't measured by your clothes or your car. It's measured by your heart. And your heart is gold.'" Tears pricked Kemi's eyes. How did this man always know exactly what to say? They entered the hotel, and Kemi felt every eye turn toward them. A security guard approached, and she braced for rejection, but he smiled and handed her a name tag. "Welcome, Miss Kemi. The event is in the grand ballroom." The ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, tables covered in white cloth, people everywhere, all looking wealthy and confident. Kemi clutched Tunde's hand. "Let's find Dayo and then leave," she whispered. They wove through the crowd, searching for his familiar face. Waiters offered them drinks and small foods she couldn't pronounce. Everything felt wrong. She didn't